Jimmy Garoppolo is currently with the San Francisco 49ers, but we know he's practicing off to the side, not really a part of the team, but technically he is on the roster. You have some news to share on the latest with Jimmy G.
I keep asking teams all the time, why don't they just cut Jimmy G now? Mm-hmm. And the answer that I got back from multiple teams is they don't want him to go to Seattle. And I said, well, how interested is Seattle in Jimmy G? And he said, oh, they're very interested in him. So for all the talk about Geno, for all the talk about Drew Lock, I think Seattle knows they're going to get Jimmy G. And I think San Francisco knows that he could go there. So they're trying everything in their power to prevent that. And right now they have no takers. So what I think will happen is the Friday before the opening weekend, I think they'll cut Jimmy G. I think that's when they'll cut him. And then he'll have to go do his contract and go up to Seattle and go there. But there is no interest in allowing Seattle to even have a week preparation with Jimmy G to come as their starting quarterback. But I do believe, reliably reported to me, that Seattle is the team that wants him. And for all the talk about Geno and Locke, no, I think they have their eyes on Garoppolo.
That's interesting because last week on the podcast, I told you that I spoke with my boots on the ground out in my old neck of the woods in Seattle, and I asked about Garoppolo, saying that would they be interested when he's eventually cut by the Niners, and the response was probably, yeah, Jimmy G is significantly better than Geno. And I responded, I said, I just wonder how soon he'd be able to start since he's probably not getting cut for a couple of weeks. He said that, yes, the Jimmy G thing is tricky even before you get to the salary part. So you think that this is just because the Niners don't want him to be able to play in that Week 2 game where they're hosting the Seattle Seahawks later this season?
Bingo. And the longer that they can prevent that, the better off they feel like the chances of him playing will not happen. And look, I don't think it's anything they have against Jimmy. There's no market. And, is there going to be a market after this weekend? Is anybody playing anybody this weekend? I don't know. No. Even if you play your guys, 5-10 plays at the most. So is anybody going to really be calling? I mean, they're not going to get any offers now. And so they want to make it as difficult as they possibly can because they know he's going to end up in Seattle, at least as of right now. Now, we know there's no absolutes in football. Things could change. But for right now, that's why they're holding on to him. That's why they're doing all this, is to keep him from playing in that Week 2 game against them. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do is cut your guy and then go up there and then your guy doesn't play good and the guy you cut plays well.
A month from today, the Seahawks will be hosting the Atlanta Falcons in Week 3. Who's going to be their starting quarterback for that game?
Can we get DraftKings to put? I would bet Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay. Wow. You would bet Jimmy Garoppolo,
even though he's not on the roster. I mean, if DraftKings has that prop, I would bet that. I seriously would bet that because I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, I think that's where he's going. I mean, look, it's no secret that they've been holding out, And I think because of that, it's going to work out. I think they're going to end up getting him because where else is he going to go? Where else can he go?
Mm-hmm. I don't see where else he can go. Cleveland sounds like they're ready to go with Jacoby Brissett, I should say. The New York Jets situation, that ended up not being a season-long injury, so Zach Wilson should take over as the quarterback at some point. In a game of musical chairs, there's not a whole lot of chairs left to go around. So Seattle makes the most sense here if Jimmy G is going to be starting this season.
Right. And so also taper in the contract, right? So he's making what, 24, 25 million? Mm-hmm. So if you say, there's a lot of teams I'm sure that would want him as the backup quarterback, but if you trade for him, you've got to agree to a contract that's a backup contract. So that's a hard thing to do, right? And if Garoppolo knows he can get a starting contract in Seattle, he's not going to redo his contract. Don Yee's not a dumb guy. Don Yee's smart. He's sitting there saying, okay, San Francisco, you don't want to cut him, we'll wait. I'm not redoing a contract with any team you want to trade him to. So if they got $24 million to put on the cap, after these games this weekend, people are going to get their cap in order because it's no longer top 51. It becomes all your players count on the cap. So there's no way that somebody's going to take that on. Cleveland could do it. But Cleveland doesn't want to do it. So where's he going to go? It's not teams aren't interested. It's where does he fit the cap? Houston doesn't sound like they're interested. Yee has a lot of leverage because he's sitting there on $25 million. And unless he says yes to redoing the deal, they have to cut him.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm looking at the Fox Bet odds. That's the last odds I was able to find for Jimmy G's next team. This was as of August 10th. The Seahawks are the favorite, plus 250 to be Jimmy G's next team. The Houston Texans were 4-1, Giants plus 550, Buccaneers plus 850, Browns 9-1. So everybody kind of realizes that if there's a potential starting quarterback vacancy, it's up in Seattle. But with that said, Pete Carroll is talking about this Geno Smith, Drew Lock thing like it's still a quarterback competition, because I understand Jimmy G is not on the roster, so he has to go about it that way.
Right.
But Drew Lock is going to be playing tomorrow night against the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe we see Geno Smith as well as this quarterback competition extends into September.
Yeah, I mean, look, what else can Pete say, right? Pete's got to be positive with the guys he's got. He's messaging to his own team. So I think ultimately, you know, that's what he can only say. But I do know reliably that that's where he wants to go. That's where they want Garoppolo, and they could get Garoppolo. Look, I think the Giants should make the move for Garoppolo. Now, I know, Daniel Jones played better. No, look, stop, please. We've had 38 games to watch Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. Like, what are we going to do? And, you know, I don't see, to me, if you're the Giants and you trade for and you get Garoppolo and you give up a 6th-round pick and you fit him into your cap. Now, I know they're tight on the cap. But you bring him in there and you kind of – now you have 16 games to evaluate him. I think when you become a GM of a team without a quarterback, you got to take as many chances on quarterbacks as you can until you hit. Until you hit. Like, take him and then, you know, compare him to this draft class that's going to come out. What happens if you get into the draft and you don't really have that top pick, or you win too many games and you're not, you know, what happens then?
Yeah. You said that you think Jimmy wants to go to Seattle. Does he have revenge on the mind, or is this maybe just the logical best scenario for him to be a starting quarterback?
I think probably it's a similar offense, you know, with Shane Waldron, who came from the Rams, you know, which is a similar offense to what Shanahan ran in Washington. So there's a lot of continuity in terminology. I think Jimmy wants to go to a place where he's going to learn that the language is the same. You know, it's challenging, like when Brett Favre went from Green Bay to the Jets, it was a completely different language. It affected him a little bit. I think he wants to go where the language is going to be the same. Seattle would be the same language. Cleveland would be the same language. I think that matters more. Plus, he gets an opportunity. Look, if you're Don Yee and Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to go somewhere where you have a chance to get paid $25 million. You know, if you go somewhere where you're not going to play. I mean, look at Baker had to take a pay cut this year off a guaranteed contract. You know, you put yourself in a tough spot.
Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.